Everyone, this is Professor Caprioli. I wanted to share with you 15 ways to wow your professor using PowerPoint. The first step is coming up with a title. Over here, you can see my brainstorming process for this talk. I wanted to give 20 ways to impress Prof, my abbreviation for professor, and you can see some of these ideas will make it to the final 15, but it's just a rapid brainstorming process. So I didn't have a title from the get-go. I kind of had a sense of what I wanted to talk about, but it took brainstorming and refining what 15 things I really wanted to communicate in order to come up with that title. So you can see the previous slide, I ripped up one draft and continued to rewrite it so it would be clearer. I lost some coffee on the way, but in the end I came up with a pretty solid understanding of what I wanted to cover today, and I came up with a good comprehensive title. Comprehensive means overall. It's if something has a comprehensive title, you can accurately understand what the subject is about just based off the title. So this title is fairly comprehensive. You reading it know exactly what I'm going to talk about. First step, come up with a title. It will take you some research, some brainstorming, but you will get there eventually. The second step is to prepare web browsers beforehand. Anything you can do to prepare your presentation before you actually deliver it will be a huge time saver. So all of these tabs at some point during this presentation I will reference. So it's nice that I have them already open before I even start presenting on that specific topic. That way the professor knows that I did the work, I am prepared. I've probably practiced quite a few times. The third step to wow your professor with PowerPoint is to come up with a professional font. When you first start editing a PowerPoint, I'll close out of the presentation mode. Say I wanted to start a brand new PowerPoint. So I just hit Control New. There are all these themes that you can choose from. This one is called Gallery. This one's called Atlas. I'm using in the other screen one called Crop. And I would select, Gallery seems to be my default because it's fairly professional. The font is clear. It doesn't detract from what I'm saying. It's really a clear, smart theme. So other professional themes, one is integral. There's another one that I will share in the comment section of this video. But back to slideshow. The fourth tip would be to edit on the app version. I'm using the app version right now, but as a CUNY student, you have access to the web version, which is this right here. And it's fine, but it just has fewer features. So when you're actually making a PowerPoint, just know that when you are designing on the web, it will be a little slower and you will have fewer features. So just something to be aware of. Fifth step is to be image-centric. When I say image-centric, I mean using presentations or using images more like cue cards for yourself and for your audience, rather than, if I want to talk about a scarlet macaw, these are two scarlet macaws. I could list I could write out the name, Scarlet Macaw, list 3 facts about them. Or I could just have the audience observe 2 scarlet macaws, and I could list 3 facts about them while drawing audience attention to a different aspect of the bird. I could talk about the beak and how it's adapted to crack very difficult to crack nuts in Latin America. I could talk about the color scheme of the feathers and what they mean. I could talk about the fact these are almost 3 feet tall. And so using images rather than bullet points is just a more engaging way to present. People love seeing other people happy, and if they're with a bunch of sunflowers, great, even better. In your presentation, the next few slides are all about Times Square. If I wanted to have an image-centric presentation and draw attention to various aspects of, say, Times Square, I could do so by cropping parts of the image into each screen and then talking more in depth, maybe making 3 points about one specific aspect of the screen. For Times Square, I might want to talk about who was one of the mayors during the 1970s, what obstacles did they encounter, what was their stance on quote-unquote scandalous billboards, etc. And then I might want to go back to emphasize another part of Times Square, maybe corporate sponsorship. So the rise of companies' logos in Times Square, that would be very interesting. But this is still image-centric because even though I have cropped the image to focus on one aspect of my presentation, I'm still at the same time reminding the audience of the bigger picture. So it's a wonderful way. Images are such a powerful way of guiding people throughout your presentation. The 6th step is to use YouTube videos. It adds variety. If you link to an authoritative site, it adds authority to your presentation. And usually the YouTube video just adds a lot of interest to your presentation. To insert a YouTube video, Microsoft Word makes it very easy to do so, or Microsoft PowerPoint, excuse me. So video example, let's say I want to insert a YouTube clip about Times Square. I would go to insert over here, the insert ribbon, and then I would go way to the right. And I would click on video. Then you, from this drop-down menu, have several options. I rely on YouTube videos. So from here, I would need to grab any sort of YouTube video. Let's see. Or this one I have up because later in the presentation I want to talk about splitting and sharing your screen on Zoom. So I have a YouTube clip or a URL. I copied it. Now I'm going to paste it. Then you insert the YouTube clip. It formats automatically. And then you might see on the right hand side that Word, or I keep on calling it Word, PowerPoint automatically gives you all of these presentation options. They're called design ideas. So I could just click that one. Perhaps I want a lighter palette. And then when you hit play, it should play automatically.
Hi, thanks for joining me today. We are going to...
Sorry for those who are watching with headphones. So that's how you insert a YouTube clip. Super useful. The 7th step is to, whenever possible, use side-by-side presentations. And I'll show you 3 clips real quick to get a sense of what I'm talking about. This gentleman, this gentleman, this gentleman. Sorry for the pixelated clips. but I just wanted to show you side by side means that the speaker, even in Zoom, is almost of comparable size to the actual PowerPoint. So this one, you can see it. This gentleman I think he's doing the voice of Elmo or giving some kind of presentation. This gentleman's giving a presentation, and his face is large. It's not a small square in the bottom corner that we're so often used to. So to get to that side-by-side presentation on Zoom, you can ask your audience to view your presentation in side-by-side mode. That might be difficult to enforce. So there are ways for you to present in side-by-side mode by using PowerPoint or dual monitors. And for more information about that, I would highly recommend watching this video, Split and Share Your Screen on Zoom. The 8th step is to use, in wowing your professor with PowerPoint, is to use the rhetorical triangle. Anytime you reach writer's block, so to speak, think about how your presentation can capitalize on ethos, pathos, or logos. Ethos is establishing credibility. So you might say, if you're presenting on Times Square, I grew up in New York City and I experienced this and this and this. Logos, if you were applying it to Times Square again and you were arguing for, say, deregulation of certain of quote-unquote scandalous images in Times Square, you could make several logical arguments for why they should be permissible in a public square. You could use pathos. You could design your presentation with pathos, some kind of image that evokes or backs up what you are trying to convey. Images with pathos are super effective. The 9th tip in using PowerPoint to wow your professor is to vary bullets. I wouldn't vary bullets throughout your presentation more than 3 times, but there are so many opportunities to vary the design of the presentation, the numbering. This is a Roman numeral. You could number, quote unquote, number things with the alphabet. To do that, to vary the bullets, for those who are not aware, you go up to the Home tab, you click on Bullets, the drop-down menu, then you have all of these options. You have further options by clicking that optional window. You can control the size, you can control the color, and same with numbering. You can see the color changed for that one. The 10th tip is to use SmartArt when appropriate and within reason. If you are trying to illustrate something in science, probably some cool physics principle, or in this case, a chemistry principle, you could use SmartArt. To do that, or to make this image, what I did, I went to SmartArt Design over here. Well, before this image even exists, you could make any group of text into SmartArt, and you do that by going from the Home tab, you go over to Convert SmartArt, and then you'll see a drop down of potential designs and colors. But for now, now that it already exists, you can click SmartArt Design, and as you can see, you can vary the presentation quite a bit. you can you can rotate it, etc. So I highly recommend playing around with SmartArt at least a couple times in your presentation. It might not always be incredibly relevant, but it's great to have that option. The 11th tip is to use charts. Most of the time you will need to link Excel data to generate a chart, and this video here will teach you in 4 minutes or less how to do that. Some symbols or charts can be generated without data. So this pyramid I made in PowerPoint without any sort of data. And I did that by going from Home to Insert. I scrolled over, just so you know. Play around with shapes and icons sometime when you get the chance. I can't cover it in this video, but it's very fun to play around with those. But as far as chart, you can see you have the option to insert columns, lines. It gets pretty detailed. You can do pie charts. If you do have any statistical information, you can illustrate it there, etc. So those are original charts that you can include. You are also welcome to include charts from authoritative bodies, so any government chart that is free to the public. I would encourage you to include when appropriate in a PowerPoint presentation. It just adds a lot of authority. The 12th tip is to use visuals that demonstrate a before and after. So, as you can probably tell, I'm all about design ideas on PowerPoint. This option from the home menu, if you scroll over, it's in Microsoft 365, any version I think after 2016. I could be wrong about that, the exact date, but all versions that are relatively new will have this design ideas option. So before design ideas, this is what a slide might look like. And then after design ideas, this is what a slide might look like. So that's a powerful way to illustrate before and after. Step 13, use closed captioning or subtitles. It's just a way for people, if you mutter or if you have a thick accent, it's a way for people to clearly read down here what you are saying. It's also courteous, it encourages accessibility, so I highly recommend closed captioning, even when it's not requested from the professor. So to start to include closed captioning or subtitles for everything you do in PowerPoint, from the main menu, you'll go over to Slideshow. And then over here, you have to click Always Use Subtitles. This is not automatically clicked, so be sure, if you want to include closed captioning, to check this Always Use Subtitles. All right. In the 14th step, this should have a little 14 over here. Why don't I include that now? Step 14 is to format backgrounds or gradients. Let me move that there. So this is a gradient. You can see it's lighter up here, and then it gets darker in this kind of yellow shade. To get to that point, you right-click the slide. You can go to Format Background. You can also, just from this sidebar over here, you can also right-click and hit Format Background, but the goal is to just hit Format Background somehow. And then you have 5 options. You can fill the background with a solid color. You can use a gradient, as I did before. You can use a picture for the background or a texture. PowerPoint gives you all of these potential patterns you can use. I would be cautious using these and be kind of hesitant to use them in academic presentations because it can obscure the font, and the whole point of PowerPoint is to clearly convey what your presentation is, what your research is, what your thoughts are. And if we can't easily read, like this is not easy to read green on green, if we can't easily read what you are trying to say, then the presentation has lost some of its thunder, so to speak. This is a nice solid theme. I always suggest sticking with theme colors or standard colors. You have the option to go over, click this and use these super highlighted colors, or kind of play around with the color and the opacity and the spectrum and the grayscale and all of that. I really think for most presentations it's a better idea to stick with theme colors or standard colors. Theme colors coincide with whatever theme you picked out at the beginning. So this theme I used crop. So crop will have these kind of muted grays, blacks, professional looking grays, I would say, and blues, these innocuous blues. So those are theme colors. And then the standard colors are mostly primary, and they are a little louder. So I actually think it's better to stick with theme colors when in doubt. The fifth step is to just include a thank you for listening at the end of your presentation. Always include this. It's funny. It says dude over there. The closed captioning is not infallible. Let's see if it gets infallible. Oh, it does get infallible. Okay. So the last step is to say thank you for listening, welcome questions. Always include your email, because people might think of questions 5 minutes after, and then you're not there, and they still want to ask you a question. It's so courteous to include your email, and who knows, the question they ask might be interesting to you as well. So to recap, these were 15 ways to wow your professor by unleashing PowerPoint. The first way was to create a comprehensive and compelling title. You'll remember I went through several drafts before coming up with a title for this presentation. So it takes some time. You have to brainstorm, do some writing, do some research. Prepare web browsers is the second step. Just showing that before you even present, that should you need to, you have all of the tabs and the slides open. It's a great way to save time and those 10-second transitions where everything is silent. Like, no one likes to endure that. So preparing web browsers will keep you focused and save you time. Selecting a professional theme, I suggest crop or gallery when in doubt. I also suggest editing on the app version, so you would download Microsoft PowerPoint. I suggest that because there are more features. However, it's not a end game if you choose to make a PowerPoint on the web version. I just think It is harder, it's slower, and there are, without a doubt, fewer features. Image-centric. Being image-centric means using images more as cue cards rather than relying on PowerPoints, rather than relying on bullet points. So image-centric means that if you are talking about a poet, for instance, say you're talking about Keats, instead of listing 3 bullet points about Keats, you might show an image of him instead, and then while looking at that image and based on your practice, sort of seamlessly list those 3 points. Inserting YouTube videos is the 6th tip. I highly suggest to only use YouTube clips that are around 20 seconds for student presentations. Definitely no more than 2 minutes. Strive for side-by-side presentations when you can. If you are able to include your face on the right side of a screen during a major presentation, and then the left side of the screen has your PowerPoint, that will be more engaging and it will mimic the classroom environment a lot more successfully. Design with ethos, pathos, and logos. If you ever reach a moment where you think, I don't know what to write next, or I don't know what to design next, just ask yourself, how can I make myself more credible in this presentation? How can I evoke emotion? How can I make people feel like this is important? How can I include research or some sort of logical argument or analogy that will make people agree with me? Step 9 was to find engaging bullet points, really vary the color and the design of the bullet points. Deploy SmartArt when appropriate. It can get out of hand if you use it more than, I would say, 3 times in a presentation. Insert relevant charts. Don't insert charts just because you want to show you're smart and you can read charts and know the X and Y axis. Insert charts because you want to reinforce a specific point, and charts can be really effective in conveying ethos, pathos, and logos. I highly suggest the before and after visuals, again, because it forwards this rhetorical triangle. It's really hard to argue with before and after visuals in a PowerPoint. Increase access with closed captioning. Use subtitles. They will appear like something down here. You can see my cursor is pointing towards the white words. And PowerPoint seems to be pretty effective in transcribing in real time what I'm talking about. It's sort of amazing. Yep. Use professionally formatted backgrounds and gradients. Don't go wild with the background. For your audience in an academic presentation, it's all about legibility and readability. So keep your backgrounds like a soft color, like a blue, an orange, maybe a light red. Keep your gradients calm and somewhat muted. And then, of course, include a thank you for listening and include your email. Your audience will definitely appreciate it. And on that note, if you have questions about these 15 tips on using PowerPoint, email me at this address. I hope this helps, and I'll see you around. Take care.